Sunday was a great example of why you should not do theology by the verse. We hit the riders of the apocalypse. Bobby walked us through that section. Her sermon was awesome. We'll leave a link to it at the end of this video if you want to check it out. But it was a really great example of why we have to understand the narrative arc of a section that we're in. Now, particularly this goes for the book of Revelation, but I'm also going to argue this is important regardless of where we are reading in our scriptures. The riders of the apocalypse are this really interesting moment. They are not representative of agents of God unleashing destruction and pain and terror on the world. They actually represent the breakdown of our trust in empire. Empire is not as strong as we think it is. It is vulnerable to other armies outside the borders. It is vulnerable to economic boom and bust that can leave us defenseless. These are all different ways that our trust in empire has been misplaced, and now we're seeing what the world could look like if all of that came crumbling down around us. However, as the seals open, things get worse and worse, and we wonder, can anybody be saved from this? And John uses a motif that he's used before. He says, I heard a number of those saved, 144,000, 12,000 from each tribe of Israel. So he hears about this little life raft of salvation in this world of destruction and despair. And maybe this is the best that he can possibly hope for. But then he says, when I turned and looked, I saw an uncountable number from every tribe and every nation and every language, all of them saved, all of them worshiping the Lamb. See, this is really interesting because in the previous section, John told us that he heard about the Lion of the tribe of Judah, this military leader in the vein of David who is going to overcome and save the day. But then I turned and I saw a lamb looking as if it had been slain. What John is doing is telling us, you have heard things about God. You have been told things through your religious upbringing, but they are not true. The Savior is not a military leader. Jesus is not in the vein of David. There is not a small remnant that will be righteous and saved. Salvation will be bigger than you think it is. John is telling us that sometimes the religion we have grown up with, the religion that we have been indoctrinated into, is actually taking us away from the goodness and the grace of God. And we need this juxtaposition to help us see that. Now, the key here is understanding that if you read a verse and you don't get to the end of a section, you are going to spend a lot of time developing a theology that is meant to be subverted. You can spend a lot of time wondering about how Jesus is the Lion of the tribe of Judah, building all kinds of ideas to round out your theology in that perspective. But if you don't read the next verse that tells you, nope, it's not like that, it's actually Jesus saves through self-sacrifice just like the slain lamb, you're going to waste a lot of time. You can spend a lot of time thinking about the riders of the apocalypse, who they are, how we see them in our world today, what you're terrified of in this moment right now, and what to cower in fear under your bed from. Or you can read to the end of the section and realize, oh, actually, we're not trying to be one of that small number that just escapes by the skin of our teeth. We are actually here to participate in the renewal of the world that God always imagined, the renewal that will expand far farther than we ever imagined. Understand where the scene is going. Understand how the scene ends, work that backwards to make sense of what you've been reading as you get there. This is a really important idea. It's a really important way for all of us to read our Bible, to read as narrative and to understand narrative arcs. But then to also understand that sometimes when we get to the end of that story, it is going to make us go back and rethink everything we've read. In fact, that's what Jesus is all about. Jesus is the one who comes at the end of the story to reveal God completely to us, and that then changes the way that we interpret all of the glimpses of God we've gotten throughout all of human history, all of the things that led us to the realization that God is present in the person of Jesus.